I don't think of my character as evil. I don't think of my character as cool or evil, to be honest. I think he's quite geeky and he's quite a good guy.
That's how we see him too.
Yeah, exactly. But he's still terrifying.
And honest.
So don't get it twisted.
Honest and
but
authentic.
Also quite a liar and Machiavellian in lots of ways.
You brought a lot yourself there, didn't you? You brought a lot to the table for
yeah,
nothing.
Exactly.
You know. And me too, I'm a pathetic, wretched coward.
I would concur with that.
Yeah, so we brought all of that over the years to the table.
Yeah, we just brought all our failings to this, basically.
And celebrated them.
Yeah.
And that's what that Venom is about, the celebration of flawed human beings. We have aliens attached to them and they have to negotiate life on life's terms now with these alien beings who've come to eat people.
And a lot of people can relate to that.
Yeah. I'm really proud of Riz.
You don't get to be proud of me. You didn't make me, Dad.
I'm just proud.
Dad, you weren't there when I needed you, Dad.
It's a brother.
No, you take your pride. You take now that I'm here in Venom, you're gonna come and claim me and come back. And you don't get to do that. I missed you. You weren't there when I needed you, and you don't get to be proud of me.
He put his own trousers on this morning.
I got a little bit of help, but mostly it's a mixture of stuff that was going to make you laugh, stuff that's going to make you jump out of your seat, stuff that's quite scary, a lot of action, cool storyline. There's a love story in it. There's a lot of kind of cool science fiction-y type stuff. You know, space travel, there's aliens. So there's a lot going on there. You know, people say there's something for everyone, but usually when they say that, it means... it's kind of watered down. Everyone can get on board. This is going to bang everyone in the face with a million different kind of flavors kind of thing. So it's quite full on.
I've known Riz since we were significantly younger, and you've known me since I was
11 years ago.
Still a bit older than you, right? So I've always been old.
You've always been older than me.
Yeah.
That hasn't
and
changed.
not as cool, right? You know what I mean? Just be honest.
Well, no.
Exactly.
But
always,
that's
all right.
Always a little bit older.
Yeah. A little
and
bit
I'll give you
boring.
that. I've always given you that you are older.
Yeah. And I've known him for so long. I mean, and
too long, really.
When he started out,
too long,
and when I started out as well, he was starting out. So we know a lot about one another. And where we come from, it's really small. You know, it's a small social.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy that we're both sat here.
Yeah, the Scrambler's a really good bike, and it's a lovely bike. And Ducati laid out, or on the smorgasbord, the options. Do you know what I mean? And the Scrambler came up trumps, and we had a lot of fun on that.
She's a professional woman. She's works at a law firm, and she is ambitious. She's intelligent. She's really sharp, and she also isn't willing to settle, and makes a decision during the film that even if it breaks her heart, she has to ask for more out of a partner. Venom's a real shocker, but even more shocking is that there's a side of Venom that is so lovable and dear, and Anne comes to know that as well. It was Tom Hardy. He was the big time draw for me. I just thought that guy's one of the greats, and I'm gonna learn, I'm gonna have fun, I'm gonna enjoy watching him, I'm gonna enjoy being in a scene with him, and I know that he'll make me a better sparring partner because he works on such an unbelievably high level. Ruben was super open to the ideas that I had, and he really said, you're in charge of her. You get to decide. You're the boss here, so have fun. It's about a man who's dealing with a duality, who is dealing with a shadow side, and learning both how to wrangle that and also learning more about himself through the process. When we started making this movie, it was kind of at the sort of precipice of the Me Too movement. There was a lot going on. There was a lot swirling in the air, and I didn't want to play somebody who was passive. I didn't want to play somebody who was recessively feminine. So I envisioned somebody who literally wore the pants in the relationship. He's just such a visceral performer, and it's like watching an animal. They're not thinking. He's not thinking about what he's not telegraphing his next move, and so it's really exciting as a viewer because you're just waiting to see what happens. He never lets you get ahead of him.
I'm glad that that's coming across because it was a conscious choice. We talked about that from very early days, that we wanted to change the face of that dynamic because we've seen it play out so many different ways. The classic, guys, angling towards some sort of showdown over the girl, but we didn't like, what position does that put the woman in, to a prize to be fought over. Just didn't seem very interesting or very fair, because her character's so strong and Michelle's such a strong actress. They just didn't feel like that was the right way to go. So, we talked about it. We also, every conversation was also, how do you bring in, is there a possibility for some humor here? Is there a possibility for a little more humanity here? And when we sort of landed in this place, like Ruben and I talked early on about, well, what about if Dr. Dan is just a fan of Eddie Brock's? Like even before he would have met Anne, I sort of pictured Dr. Dan coming home from a long day at the hospital, like putting on Eddie's, his sort of Vice newsy kind of segment. Dr. Dan is not a badass by any means. He's a good doctor, but he's not a tough guy. So maybe he, kind of idolizes Eddie Brock because he's a true badass, hard-boiled investigative journalist. And yeah, I mean, there were some scenes. We had a lot of fun shooting this stuff and trying it all different ways. And there were some that were just so silly, where Dr. Dan's like practically swooning over. He's like, oh my God, Eddie Brock. I've always found, no matter how high the stakes are or how intense a piece gets, there's always, I mean, this goes way back too to like, Greek tragedies and stuff like that. There has to be humor, because humor is human. People would be surprised how many times it's like, you get so scared you laugh. You're so sad you cry, and the crying turns to laughter. So there's always this undercurrent of humor. And it's also, I mean, to me, that's one of the things that humor is not only, contagious, but it's universal. And I think it was very important to find those moments. You don't want to make it a comedy because it's Venom. Venom's not a comic character. He's a head-biting, gut-slicing symbiote alien badass. But the humor, especially in a movie like this, when you go on a ride, you want to have it all. You want to have, there's got a little bit of the romance, got a lot of action. You've got this great psychodrama that plays out. You've got, there's some political intrigue and things like that. But the humor is just, it cuts in just the right moment. He's a good man, which is why a character like Michelle's character, Anne, is attracted to him. She's a bit of a do-gooder herself. She was on the wrong side at one point, but she's making it right. She's a good, strong attorney. So it stood to reason that if someone that he cares about has someone that she cares about, and this person needs help, well, he's going to help that person because he cares about her. On top of that, the whole Hippocratic oath of being a doctor, is someone, first do no harm, and then, try to help this patient. And then when the mystery starts to unravel a little bit, even though Dr. Dan's, a bit in the dark as to, what's really going on here, he sees something is truly troubling about Eddie's condition. And I think he's not only, compelled to help, but I think he's also just very intrigued. So the science side of Dr. Dan kicks in. It's like, let's get to the bottom of this problem. Let's solve this problem. But obviously, the stakes are heightened because, again, one, he's in love with Anne and he wants to help her, help someone that she cares about, but two, because she's like, God damn, he wants to help Eddie Brock. He loves it. He loves him some Eddie Brock. I think it's just fun, and also, I mean, I'm not a young man anymore, so it's a grown up superhero movie. There's a little, it's darker. It's a little more adult. It challenges the audience in a way that I think the best superhero movies do, but this one absolutely nails that. So, when I'm talking to my buddies, it's like, we're excited to just see a good movie that happens to be, from the Marvel Universe. This entire filmmaking process is different than what I've normally done. I've done either a lot of comedy, or if I have done more serious things, they've always been on a more indie scale. So first I was sort of just like, everything's gonna be very fancy, please don't break anything. Like, just don't do anything bad. But then, you add to that this film is really different than the other sort of like large scale superhero movies that are coming out, and that the character is like so alluring and also so terrifying, and you're really able to feel that like pleasure and fright at once. So to me, that was very exciting because I like new things. I think I'm pretty tuned in
to the experience of, well, I could possibly be a little bit more comfortable if I don't say anything, but I will be spiritually completely uncomfortable. And that's not a good bargain. And I do think that that's really, really an important message for our world today. Yeah, it's really scary to speak out, but I think it's even scarier to live in a world that is unsafe and unjust. I like that she's serious, because even in life when I try to be serious, I'm like, there's always a little bit of a doodad. I like that, but, and there are other superficial things, like I really liked wearing the lab coat and pressing buttons on a computer and wearing glasses. But really, yeah, I like playing a woman who is earnest and really good at her job. I first met Ruben, I would say, under a decade ago, maybe like 8 or 9 years ago. I knew him as someone who really liked comedy. And I met him to speak about a one-woman show that I was like doing, and we sort of had maybe a general meeting, and I've always just really admired his attitude. He's really open, and I think his directing style he's very specific. He knows what he wants, but he takes out any element of like, there's shame if you don't get this right, even though we are going for something specific. And in a film like this, you have to be specific. All of Tom's like body choices, they're so specific. And this is a group of performers that care about that. And I think that Ruben really allowed us to be expansive and to be expressive in a way that sort of serves us as actors. And he's just really chill. You've got to be chill. It's really fun. I am sort of a large child, I would say. And so any opportunity that I have to use my imagination, like full on and really floor it, is exhilarating for me. So yeah, it didn't feel very much different than, my normal daytime behavior, in that like my imagination is firing at all times.